But now we're getting another 20 on top of contracts we don't know anything about.
We'd like to call the City Council agenda of City Council of February 7th, 2022 to order. And I'd like to explain the disaster procedures, which is if we would have an issue, we would come, line up nicely and walk straight out this side door on by this exit. Hopefully, we don't have to ever do that. Since this meeting is being videotaped, it's important that everyone speak directly into the microphone when speaking. And right now, I'd like to have our city clerk, Jenny, do a roll call of the aldermen.
Alderman Hazel.
Present.
Alderman Whitaker.
Here.
Alderwoman Duco.
Here.
Alderwoman Aris.
Here.
Alderman Randall.
Here.
Alderman Ferguson.
Here.
Alderman Anthony.
Here.
Alderman Ovian. Alderman Dintelman. Alderwoman Schaefer.
Here.
Alderwoman Steele.
Here.
Alderman Rothweiler.
Here.
Alderman Elmore.
Here.
Alderman Weigand. Alderman Wigington.
Here.
Alderwoman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Ovian, Dintelman, and Weigand are excused, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Could we have the department head roll call, Jenny?
City Treasurer Bierman.
Present.
City Attorney Horner.
Present.
Police Chief Bill Clay.
Here.
Fire Chief J.P. Panay.
Here.
Finance Director Jamie Matrit.
Here.
Director of Public Works Jason Poole.
Here.
Director of Wastewater Randy Smith.
Here.
Director of Library Leander Spearman.
Here.
Director of IT Scott Markovich.
Here.
City Engineer Sal Elcott.
Here.
Director of Health, Housing and Building Scott Tyler.
Here.
Director of Human Resources Seth Miller.
Here.
Director of Economic Development Planning Zoning Clifford Cross.
Present.
Thank you. And let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have no public hearing. Thank you. But I would like to thank Jason Poole and his fabulous staff for what they've done for the last, 4 or 5 days, cleaning up and getting the streets back in order for all of us. So let's give them a big round of applause. And we had a lot of compliments on how it was handled. And of course, you always have a few that wish things were a little quicker, but the comments were very, very lovely. And we're all trying to show a little more respect and graciousness here to each other in the city of Belleville. And I just wanted to let Jason know how people really feel about the job that they did. So thank you, Jason. Okay, no public hearing, but we do have public participation tonight with 2 to 3 minutes per person. And so, if we have people that wish to speak, would you please raise your hand? Okay. Let's just start here in the very front, up here, the front. Oh, were you, sir, a person that wants to speak? Thank you.
I wanted to speak on behalf of the closing of...
Can you state your name for
Yes.
the record,
Well,
please?
my name is Ron Wodarczyk. I'm the president of the Exchange Club of Belleville. I wanted to speak on behalf of the closing of the festivals at to 9 o'clock rather than the present at 11 o'clock that we had in the past. That's what I want to speak about. Okay, as I mentioned, I'm Ron Wodarczyk, the president of the Exchange Club of Belleville. I've been a member of the Exchange Club for 30 years now. And our Exchange Club in Belleville was formed in 1946, so we've been here for 75 years. And some of the activities that we are involved in and projects we're involved in, one of the ones you may remember is our Christmas tree set up in the middle of the square. We do the square decorations, all the quadrants over there. We also do the Easter decorations. We also have we have a firefighters, police, and sheriff's awards dinner and appreciations dinner. And we also have the Christmas basket for the needy program for the local area. We have a scholarship at this Southwestern Illinois College for a student seeking a degree in child care and counseling. Every year we support that. And we have other functions we financially support in the area here. And our budget every year is about a little over $17,000 right now. It used to be quite a bit more than that when we had a Friday night bingo, so we could actually double what we have as our budget right now. But now our only fundraising activity is the Oktoberfest, our beer and soda stand, and that supports all of our projects. So what I'd like to recommend or suggest is we keep the Oktoberfest open as long as possible, rather than closing it at 9 o'clock, because hey, the funds we get go right back into the community to support all of our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next, I'll start on this side of the room. Do we have anyone else? Yes. Please come forward and state your name.
Up or down? Okay. Good evening. I have a prepared statement to read. My name is Marcus Berger, and I'm a resident of Belleville, a member of the Oktoberfest Committee, and a volunteer for most of the events held downtown Belleville. I'm also a former business owner in the city and a former employee of the Parks and Rec Department. I want to thank the Mayor and City Council for allowing me to speak tonight. I come forward tonight with questions and concerns, and hopefully I leave here tonight with optimism and a renewed faith in this body of government. It is my understanding that the Chief of Police and the Belleville Police Department are requesting on adopting and or changing an ordinance that would change the closing time to 9 p.m. for all sponsored events by the city, excluding parades. It is also my understanding that the police department's reason behind these changes is that juveniles are coming in groups and causing disruptions, and in some cases, physical altercations. I read in a memo that most of these situations start with juveniles arriving between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m., and issues arising at 9 p.m. and shortly thereafter. I've worked in the education field for the past 15 years. Juvenile behavior does not have a time frame. It happens when it happens, or it happens based on the elements that are provided. You can shift the dynamics, you can make it more difficult, and you can move the goalposts, but the reality is until you fix the root of the problem, you're just putting a Band-Aid on hopes that it will hold. In my opinion, if in fact the bewitching hour is after 9 p.m., all you're doing is changing it from 9 p.m. to 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. It may not happen this year, but it will happen. And then what's the answer? We close all events at 5, only daytime events, no events. The message you're sending by doing this is Belleville is not safe. If in fact these juveniles are arriving at 8:30 and starting problems at 9, how can we safely get 20,000 people off the streets if the majority of the police department is working with these juveniles and these problems? The decision to approve this measure might have benefits, but what I can promise you, it will have consequences. While it is said that this was not an attempt to pick on or single out Oktoberfest or Chili Cook-Off, of the emails and memos I've been afforded to read, only these 2 events were mentioned. I understand that these 2 events are the largest events, or some of the largest events held downtown, but it happens once a year. We have a whole year to prepare, make suggestions, and make changes that won't impact the revenue that is generated not only for the city of Belleville, but for the organizations, charities, sponsors, businesses that participate in these great events. I'm very concerned that approving this recommendation will have a great impact on the amount of businesses, vendors, charity sponsors, and organizations that choose to no longer participate in these events due to losing 4 hours of sales and revenue. We have contracts in place that will need to be changed or canceled, and that comes at a price. We have large sponsors who have to decide whether their money is worth investing in Belleville in these events. These events showcase what is so great about Belleville, from the fountain to the charming streets to the backdrop of the courthouse. Let's promote Belleville and the events, not close them early.
Thank you, sir.
Can I please finish? I got a little bit more and I promise I'll be done. Another problem I feel we have is the approved, where do we do with all the people who came to celebrate this great city and its heritage? When we close early. 50% of the crowd is ready to go home at 10:30 or 11 p.m. By moving it 2 hours early, I'm going to assume that the good majority of these people will decide to stay. Now we have another problem. Businesses will be even more crowded than they already are. Problems will arise, and we will have more people in tight and closed places than ever before. On the other hand, people might just choose not to come. Not only has the City of Belleville, businesses, organizations, charities, and sponsors lost revenue on the early closing time, they will now begin to lose money due to the lack of interest of people who just want to celebrate Belleville and the outside for a good time with family and friends. Most of you in this room face decisions every day. As I said before, decisions have benefits and consequences. The decision before you tonight has both. The benefits are unknown, but the consequences are clear. My time in education has taught me a lot of things, but one thing I know for sure is that some of the best decisions I've made and my colleagues have made have been through collaboration, pulling all parties and people involved together to hear each other's thoughts, concerns, and ideas. By doing this, it allows all voices to be heard and, most importantly, understood. By allowing all parties to meet, collaborate, and share their thoughts and ideas, it will create an environment and a platform with the best possible solutions for all parties involved. I'm not denying that there is a problem. I believe Chief Clay and his department. What I do not believe is by changing the closing time that this will fix the problem. I believe the problem will still exist on another street, another part of town, or another city. And in the end, all we've done is taken away from the city, the organizations, the vendors, the charities, and the businesses. In closing, I would like to say, we are here with open arms. Chief Clay, we hear your concerns and understand your job is to protect and provide safety to the city, its residents, and its visitors. You have now heard some of our concerns. So I ask you, and I ask the mayor, and I ask this city council to work with us, meet with us, and collaborate with us in finding a solution to this problem. I'm asking all of you to vote no on this proposal in its current state and allow all parties involved to sit down and work together to solve the problem so we can continue to enjoy these events and celebrate the great city of Belleville. Let's not give the impression Belleville is unsafe. Let's show everyone that when Belleville faces a problem, we all come together to solve the problem for the greater good of the city, residents, and the people that visit this great city and our events. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everybody, this is 2 to 3 minutes per person. And I'd like to just address you for a minute, gentlemen, that I have been extremely involved in events around the city. So I realize both sides of the situation. So thank you. I'd like Chief Clay to address the fact that this gentleman believes that, go through and then we'll have Chief. Okay. And who's next? Stuart? Come on. Oh, somebody before Stuart. Stuart, can you just wait for a minute? Okay, thank you.
My name is Wayne Rock, and I represent the Belleville Sister Cities. I've been a part of it for over 20-something years. It's hard to top what that gentleman just said. I believe what he says. I believe what the chief said. But being told this on such short notice, I don't think it's fair to us. I just think we should start the event maybe at 10 o'clock, but the 9 o'clock is just out of the question, I think. It's not fair.
Okay,
That's all I
thank
gotta
you,
say.
Wayne. Thank you. Okay, Stuart.
I'd like to apologize for not wearing a mask, but if Joe Biden said it one time, he said it 100 times. If you got your three shots, you don't have to wear a mask. So I'm following his orders. And another thing, I don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because any country that allows people to tear down statues of Teddy Roosevelt and Christopher Columbus, among dozens of others, is not a country that I'm going to stand and say allegiance to. And the East Washington, I call it the East Washington affair. There was 2 articles in the Belleville News Democrat accusing me of getting out of my truck and calling these people who were blocking the street, using the N-word. First of all, I never got out of my truck to use the N-word, but it was in the News Democrat twice, 2 front-page articles, and I didn't get out of my truck at all. I sat there quietly for 10 or 15 minutes. I called the police. They never did show up. And then I went home, and 6 or 8 weeks later, the police come and arrest me, and I'm charged with 2 felonies, supposedly for scaring some kids. That's what they said. I scared them, so 2 felonies.
Okay.
And it was a photo shoot, so everybody was snapping photos of me in the whole area, but not one photo could they come up with that showed me out of my truck.
Okay,
And, wait a minute, I'm not done now, Harry.
Stuart, a lot of this is your opinion, which is
No, it's
fine.
not.
Well, some of the earlier comments,
I don't
but
know.
also, these are things that have to be brought up with the police.
The
And-
police were never there,
Well, you said you've been charged with felonies.
but they
so-
were never on the scene.
But somebody had to charge you with the felony.
I was told the police can use discretion, but
Well-
how could the police know what happened there except second-party information?
Well, you just said I was told, which is also second-party
Okay, let's
information.
not quibble. I did not get out of my truck. The police were never there. So how did the only way the police know what happened is these 20 black people told them their version of the story.
And here, Stuart, we once again are not on what is on the agenda. So would you please contact the police
They
department?
know all about it.
Okay, well, it's time for you to sit down so we can continue on
Here's
with
just-
things that are on the agenda.
I told you that once before.
I-
Everything on
yes.
the agenda has already been decided weeks in advance.
No, it hasn't,
Most
Mr.
of it.
Stewart, I do not call aldermen to make decisions. They are representing their own people, their own constituents, and I thank you for being so gracious. Thank you so much. Okay, who else would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Wendy File. I am the President and CEO of the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce and the host of the annual Chili Cook-Off, I'd like to thank you for your time this evening. Tonight, the City Council will be continuing discussions on city-sponsored event closures at 9 p.m. The annual Chili Cook-Off is one such event. The Chili Cook-Off has been a community favorite for the past 38 years. On January 26, 2022, the Chamber of Commerce sent a letter to Mayor Gregory, Police Chief Clay, and to the City Council to express our concerns. Since our original letter, we have had the opportunity to meet with not only Mayor Gregory, Chief Clay, and his command staff, but also have spoken with many City Council members to hear your concerns and answer questions you may have from the Chamber as an event organizer. The Chamber's mission is advancing business supporting community. The event supports community through the biggest fundraiser of the year for many nonprofit organizations. Over half of the vendors participating at the Chili Cook-Off each year are either a nonprofit organization or a business raising money for a charity, including the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce, and 100% of the money raised in those booths go to those charities. However, we also support the community by hosting a safe family event each year, and this is facilitated by the Belleville Police Department. We support their efforts to make this event safe each and every year, and we respect their opinions in this matter. We want to see these events continue for the next 40 years to showcase our community. Mayor Gregory, Chief Clay, and his command staff had valid concerns given today's environment, and we know some of those are ones that we, as an event host, cannot control. We never want to put the safety of our police officers or event participants at risk, as this could end festivals as we know it. We appreciate Chief Clay's conversation with us on the challenges currently facing the police department. The Chamber of Commerce will respect the decision made by the City Council on event closure times, and we thank you for the opportunity to address the council.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Any more public participation? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Tyler Edgar, and I'm representing the Belleville Shrine Club. I just want to say good evening to all the aldermen, the mayor, and Police Chief Clay. I, too, have a brief statement that I would like to say. The Oktoberfest has been one of the longest fundraisers for the Belleville Shrine Club that we've had in many recent years. It's actually the largest fundraiser that we have every year. If shortening the time frame down to 9 is better for the police, it may be better for everyone involved, but all the organizations that put all the time and effort into these events, not only just the Oktoberfest, but all of them, will seriously see a tremendous downside of revenue that would come into the city. And we think that if we reduce that, we wouldn't be able to provide to the community after all the events and the people that have left Belleville recently. We'd like to see people come back to Belleville. We want to keep Belleville strong. And we just celebrated our 40th anniversary for our event, and we'd like to see it continue on to 50, even let's shoot for 100. But we would like to see that the time not only stay the same, but if that would be not possible, we would negotiate for a 10 o'clock closure instead of the 9 o'clock closure. I think it would be best for everybody involved that we actually meet and cooperate and try to come to a resolution that's beneficial to all parties involved. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Any more conversation about the closures? Chief, would you like to come up and address some of the concerns? Okay, we're going to wait till we vote on it, and then you can comment and voice and answer some questions. Thank you so much. Okay. We are now closing public participation. Okay. We will now have presentations, recognitions, and appointments. The recognition of the character word of the month is trustworthiness, truthfulness in words and actions, being honest and reliable in words and action. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mayor, that would be me, Chief Cadet, and we'll recognize the firefighters, Brian Rica, who received the Humanitarian Service Medal from MAVAS, Illinois, for his deployment during Hurricane Ida relief.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your time. If I can, Brian, we can come forward, please. I will leave my mask off so that you can hear me speak. I'm guessing the rest of them are going to leave them on because we're not social distancing. I'll just stand a little bit further away. Thank you for your time and attention tonight. I promise to keep this brief, but it's a very important topic. When one of our members goes above and beyond and submits themselves to extra duty above and beyond the duties of a firefighter just in the city of Belleville, the MAVAS, which is MAVS, is a mutual aid box alarm system. So the state of Louisiana declared a national emergency, and the state of Illinois responded by sending crews from all over the state down to Hurricane Ida relief. And Brian Rica was chosen to accompany that team to participate in that hurricane relief. We appreciate his efforts, and in recognition of that, Mavis, Illinois has awarded Brian a Humanitarian Service Award, which I'm going to pin on his shirt in recognition of his service. Maybe I'll just leave it in the box.
Brian's happy if you don't pin it on him anyway.
Brian Rica, it gives me great pleasure to award you the Humanitarian Service Award from Mavis, Illinois, for your time spent and Hurricane Ida relief. Thank you for your time, your privilege, and your service. Thank you very much.
I want to also thank you, sir, for your wonderful attention and helping others out with Hurricane Ida.
And there they go.
Okay. That was very lovely. Thank you. Okay. I need a motion to approve my fiscal year 2021-2022 appointment of Brett Friedman as wastewater plant pretreatment coordinator, effective January 24th, 2022.
Steele, so moved.
Schaefer, second. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Whitaker.
Aye.
Duco. Harris.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Ferguson. Anthony.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Steele.
Aye.
Rottweiler.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Wiggington.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you so much. And now we will call for the approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve City Council and Executive Session meeting minutes of January 18th, 2022.
Harris, so moved.
Thank you. Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Okay, claims, payroll, and disbursements. Motion to approve claims and disbursements in the amount of $1,358,632.70. Payroll, and payroll in the amount of $858,538.79.
Whitaker, so moved.
Thank you.
Schaefer, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call.
Whitaker.
Aye.
Duco. Harris.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Steele.
Aye.
Rottweiler.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Wiggington.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Hazel.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Under reports, I need a motion to accept the city attorney report dated February 4th, 2022. Motion?
Harris, so moved.
Thank you. Second?
Schaefer.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Now, oral reports from standing committees, special committees, and any other oral reports from the elected officials or staff. Mr. Randall, would you like to make the motion from Streets and Grades Committee?
Be happy to, Mayor, thank you. On behalf of the Streets and Grades Committee, 11A1, a motion to approve extending current agreement with Minton Outdoor Services Incorporated for grass and yard maintenance from March 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2025. So moved.
Harris, second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Discussion.
Oh, yes.
I would just like to register my disapproval of the fact that this did not go out for bid. When so many people speak of transparency, then we're looking at extending a contract into 2025 without going out for bid.
Would you like to address that, Jason?
Good question. So Donnie Minton that's the contractor you're voting on. He is extending keeping his rates flat through the next 3 years, equal to the previous 3 years. And the question was posed to the city attorney of, can we just extend the contract? And we were advised that we could, would be the only thing I really have to say, honestly.
You're able to waive the bidding requirements. That's, I think you've done it before with city attorney.
I don't remember us taking a vote to waive the bidding process, nor was it made part of the motion.
No, it's part, this would require city attorney.
I understand.
And from my personal perspective,
Motion to waive the bidding requirements, but it's in the ordinance that bidding requirements, fit the home rule. The super attorney vote don't have to be, these matters don't have to be.
I guess the only other thing I will add is if, we can bid it, it doesn't make me any difference, honestly. You all want to vote it down and we'll put it out to bid. I find it hard to believe we're going to beat prices that are 3 years old, but anything's possible. So if you all vote it down, I'll put it out to bid. I don't have a problem doing that.
Thank you, Jason. We currently have a motion. Would you like to reread it, Mr. Randall?
I can if you'd like, Mayor.
Yeah, motion and a second.
Yeah,
So, you want me to reread it, or?
Well, no, we don't need to.
no.
So let's just discussion. Now that Joe has brought up, something that he is concerned about. Any discussion from anyone else? Hearing none, we will now have roll call.
Duco? Aye. Harris?
Aye.
Randall?
Aye.
Ferguson?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Steele?
Aye.
Rothweiler?
No.
Elmore?
Aye.
Wiggington?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Hazel?
No?
Whitaker?
No.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, now we would like, Mr. Randall, would you,
Be happy to, Mayor. 11A2,
10 to 3? Oh, on bids? Okay. Okay. I am big on bids coming in. So I do feel, as much as a great job that Mr. Mitten has done, in the fact that he also has extended the low amount that he's been charging us for the last several years. I would like, though, just because we're trying to be fair across the board with all of the RFPs and RFQs, which in the past have not been followed, and that was one of the things that I really wanted to have happen during my term as mayor, because many contracts were just being given away without RFQs and RFPs. So, I want to state that I believe Mr. Mitten is a very fine man and a very professional business person. But I would like to go ahead and suggest and vote that we continue with the new practice of having RFPs and RFQs come out of our committee. So Jason, do you know about how long that would take to put them out and get those?
Give me a couple weeks.
Okay, okay.
Voting no.
I'm voting no only because we have set a new precedence, and I do believe that we don't want to send mixed messages to people.
Mayor,
Yes,
everything everybody says makes sense. You gotta look at inflation being at the highest as it's been in 40 years. And for this businessman who's got a big operation, to hold those prices, we're talking at gas, labor, equipment, through 2025, he's gonna be lucky if he's breaking even on us,
okay,
and if not, maybe even losing a little bit of money, because I don't see inflation easing up this year or next year. So he's doing the city a huge, huge favor by holding these prices, and we know he does a good job. Now, you've already voted no, I'm only expressing my opinion, but right now, we're looking at runaway inflation, and, you know, I don't know if anybody can hold the prices like he's willing to do.
thank you. And I totally agree with you
We'll find out.
about holding the price and the inflation cost. Mr. Minton has always worked well with the
Yep.
city. He may be coming in with the same amount that he's offering now.
Right.
And I hope he does, as I hope everybody that comes in also thinks about doing something good for the city.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The only other
Jason?
comment I will make is, I will go out for bid on this as soon as I can, and just know that grass will start growing in April, so if we went to run this back through streets and grades and then delay another few weeks before it comes to this committee or to the full council for approval or consideration, we could get into the grass growing season. So just want to let you all know that, because we do not have a contractor on hand at this point.
Can we put it can we start it tomorrow and put a short time frame on it?
Sure, yeah, it's all good, sure. I will do it as quickly as I can.
I don't think there's ever any question about Mr. Minton's work, because he does a fabulous job. So, I just want to make that perfectly clear.
That's never been my intention.
Yes, okay.
No, and actually, Alderman Hazel, you make very good points, and they're very valid, but the season's,
It's
you know,
coming
we're
upon
already
us, yes.
gonna be approaching halfway through February.
Mr. Elmore?
I'm glad to see we're sending this back out for bid. My question is, does it have to go back through the Streets and Grades Committee, or can it come back straight to the City Council? Just a question.
No,
It's not tied to the committee, but it's tied to the ordinances for the bidding timelines. So under, section 34.005, B3, it talks about the bidding requirements. If the work exceeds $10,000, any such contract may be entered into by the proper officers without advertising bid, authorized by a vote of 2/3 of the Alderman holding office. So you need 11. Now, if you don't do that, then there's public notice requirements, 10 days prior to bid closing, so there's time frames to put it out that are going to dictate how long it takes. It doesn't necessarily have to go to the bid, but you need to follow bidding requirements and satisfy those. And you need to
Absolutely. Follow the bidding requirements. And doesn't Jason have the authorization, the authority to extend the current services 2 weeks just until we determine the new low bidder or chosen bidder?
He doesn't have the authority to extend contracts. The administration has the authority to advertise bids.
So do we have someone to cut in the next 2 weeks?
Well,
We should be able to get this, like, at
Right.
the first meeting in April. We'll work on the bid, we'll get it out.
can we just run it through administration?
Yes, we can
Okay.
just run it through administration, we'll get it taken care of in March, open the bid, so that the first meeting in April, we can get it through.
Wow.
Yeah, 'cause we have a bid packet ready, and then Minton came and said that he would offer the same cost, so we're pretty much ready to go. Yeah.
And I do believe that was a gracious offer. So,
Okay, thanks.
thank you, Jason. Okay, then, Mr. Randall,
Oh, thank you.
A2,
11A2, a motion to approve a $3,500 agreement with Oates Associates for completing and filing an STP grant application for the resurfacing of West Main Street from 28th to 39th Street. So moved.
Ferguson, second.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Harris,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Steele,
Aye.
Rothweiler,
Aye.
Elmore,
Aye.
Wiggington,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Hazel,
Aye.
Whitaker,
Aye.
Duco. Motion carries, Mayor.
Motion carries.
11A3, a motion to approve Lockmiller Group for various contracts with a maximum of $20,000 for engineering department support pending sign-off by IDOT, and this would be under motor fuel tax. So moved.
Any discussion? Could I ask Mr. Elcott if he could explain exactly what the engineering department support would be, just to have more transparency for the audience and for the owner?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the explanation to this body. Before you hired me, you had 4 or 5 people working the engineering department. Now you have 1, so about 25%, right? I'm privileged to be doing this for our city and for you. At the time when you had the 4 or 5 working in the engineering department, a substantial amount of the money used to pay those folks, and properly so, was using MFT funds. And some of these folks, many of them were sub-consultants, subcontractors. They were not employees of the city. They have all gone their own ways. One of them is dead. It's a little difficult to get a hold of them to come and help us. One of them is in California, 2 of them in the private sector. So the proposal that you have before you is $20,000 worth of oxygen that you buy for us. We are still in ICU, but we are vigorously rebuilding a fantastic engineering department for you. It's going to be a long time before you have the kind of vigor and experience that you have now. So we're buying oxygen, $20,000 worth, until we find somebody to come and work as an assistant city engineer. The services that are included in this are the administrative technical work that is required to prepare the contracts for the sidewalks, contracts for ditching, contracts for the infrastructure work, contracts for the maintenance of maintenance contract, and the quantities and the supplies we need. I think this is it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them for you, Mayor, and any of you folks.
Okay, any more discussion? Thank you, Sal. Okay, we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Roll call?
Randall?
Aye.
Ferguson?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Steele?
Aye.
Rottweiler?
Aye.
Elmore?
Aye.
Wiggington?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Hazel?
No?
Whitaker?
Aye.
Duco? Harris?
Aye.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, now we would like the motions from Board of Fire and Police Commissioner, Mr. Anthony.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Johnny, can you read them as a group?
I can, if nobody objects.
Nope, that's great.
Hearing no objection.
Thank you. On behalf of the, I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. First motion to approve the promotion of Richard A. Wagner to the rank of Assistant Chief effective January 24th, 2022 at 12:01 a.m. Just remain standing, Assistant Chief. 11B2, motion to approve the promotion of Jesse Garner to the rank of Battalion Chief effective January 24th, 2022 at 12:01 a.m. 11B3, motion to approve the promotion of Fred, I may mess this up, Rabchek Breezewing.
Very good.
Thank you. Junior. To the rank of Captain effective January 24th, 2022, 12:01. 11B4, motion to approve the hiring of Anthony Lombardo, Michael Swint, Paul Brock as probationary firefighters effective February 7th, 2022 at 12:01. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ferguson?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Steele?
Aye.
Rottweiler?
Aye.
Elmore?
Aye.
Wiggington?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Hazel?
Aye.
Whitaker?
Aye.
Duco? Harris?
Aye.
Randall?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Congratulations and thank you very much. Okay, at this point, we have a motion from administration concerning the city-sponsored special events. At this time, I would like to have the police officers with the chief involved with this. If you could please come forward, chief, and just address some of the things that were brought up during public participation.
Do we need to open the discussion with a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion motion to approve the city-sponsored special events police department closing time recommendation.
Harris, second.
Discussion.
Well, here we go.
Oh, where's Chief?
He's back. He was.
Oh, okay. I think he's getting information. Chief?
Good evening. As Wendy said, and others, we did meet about the proposed recommended closing times. What I'm going to do here, and I hope this doesn't wear you guys out much to listen, it's some talking points that we have about it. Maybe I should make copies of this, but I didn't know how it went down. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about this and lay out why we're here. First of all, that just don't work. This is not a move by the police department to hurt any of these events. I started here in 1995 and worked many of them, supervised down there and so forth. I've been the chief going on 15 years, and I've not taken these kinds of actions against these two events or other events lightly. There has been an evolution, if you want to call it that, or it's devolved, one or the other. But my command staff and I, what I'm going to talk to you about is data-driven. It's evidence-based. It's historical events and incidents that have happened at these events. I would first like to say that the organizers have been very helpful. They have been this collaborative with us. We have contact information. We have all the things that they can provide. They have done that. So there's not been any antagonisms or any difficulties whatsoever working with them. But that is not the issue, and that is not security. But they have done their level best to work with us, to respond whenever we've needed them. But I will tell you that we started experiencing these problems of the large gatherings of juveniles and young adults, around 2015 was when we first started seeing these events. Some of them looked, when we first started, they were more like flash mobs. You remember when that was going on. We had several of those events that happened at the Oktoberfest chili cook-off. There was some property damage. There were large fights and those types of things. Before that, we had never really had a hard operations plan to work those events, because they had been very peaceful. You had a few people that drank a little bit too much and they wanted to become somebody, and you would have to deal with that. But for the most part, we had no problems at all, but things changed. So we started with the flash mobs, so they would gather up really quick based on social media, jump into a fight, maybe damage some property. Not necessarily that they were looking to do that, but that was the end result from some of the fighting. We also had, we experienced down there, was what we would call willful or planned stampedes in the event. Let me explain to you what that is. You get a large gathering of young adults, juveniles, and without notice, they would just break and go into a hard run through people, run into the event, run in some of the tents, and so forth. We had a lot of that taking place. That stirs up a lot of anxiety, people panic, and so forth, because they don't know what's going on. And you just see all these kids running as hard out as they could. So we saw that as well. We were inundated from aldermen at the time from the city, from some of the vendors down there about complaints of what they determined, that they looked at as disorder maintenance. They wanted something done. They wanted us to get a handle on these events. We were trying to assess them to see what they were. We were using intel and so forth to try to stop the flash mob type gatherings and those kinds of things. And we were very successful until some of the police departments started telling everybody what we was doing. In other words, they tell what we're doing to stop these types of events. And we did a lot of that with local police departments. And so at one point there was even recommendations that we put K-9 officers downtown and so forth to deal with these unruly mobs. Can you imagine what that would look like? That we would do such a thing. We couldn't do that. So shortly after that time, around 2016, 2017, the staff met with me. Some were different people than we have today. And based on the evidence and the data-driven events that we were seeing, and when these things took place, they requested earlier closing times. Those times were based on the data, based on the incidents. What we found was they were looking for the cover of darkness to do a lot of these things. And that's what we've seen all the way up to today. Darkness, not necessarily bewitching hour of 8, but as soon as that sun starts to go down and it's dark, we'd see the crowds. So it was recommended that we close at that time. I presented those recommendations to the previous administration, but they were not implemented. As a result of that, we sat down with the command staff, and we put together a very strategic, comprehensive plan. And some of the things that we did with that plan, and we put this in place, and it evolved. We purchased additional barricades, GoPro cameras. Those are the cameras you see on the sticks and so forth, that we could do that so we could see who was all out there. And we wanted people to see that we were videotaping them. It wasn't just the other way around. Of course, they were videotaping us as well. So we got those. We started renting tower lights, and we carried that a couple of years, and eventually the organizers started carrying the cost of renting those tower lights. And so that was a good deal. And I will tell you that all those things purchased with asset forfeiture funds. We had no support as far as city funds in buying these things. And so that was a very important decision that I made because I wanted to help protect our officers and as well try to mitigate the problems that we were having down there. So we put those things in place. We reached out to all of the downtown businesses and asked them to turn off all public access Wi-Fi networks during those events. And we had a lot of success there. They helped because we realized that a lot of the participants come down and they use the free public access Wi-Fi, and they're making their plans on the phone. So we knew that, so we wanted to disrupt them and their messaging and so forth. So we put that in place. And we had great success from the downtown businesses. They all came in to help us. So when they're saying that they're collaborating and working with us, they really are, folks. They're not working against the police department. They're doing everything that they can to help us. We began to collect intel from our school resource officers and investigators to identify the planned disruptions. We were able to do that, fights or other disorders, and the agitators. And we used open source social media platforms. So we didn't get into pulling up TLO or police investigations. We just used open sourcing. And you can find a lot of those things there. We worked with District 201 to schedule football game starting times and closing times. Folks, we did that because of the additional strains. We have to provide security at the school games, and they would hit on these weekends. So you can see the strain that is putting on our resources. We also wanted to schedule the times, and they worked very well with us, to keep some of the games going, just so we could delay the times at which the kids would leave the games and show up at the Chili or October Fest. So we did that. When we were able to reschedule the date, we did that. So there's a lot of things that we were trying to do other than arrive here. We also began notifying the parents through press, social media, and we mailed letters. We sent them Improper Supervision of Children's Act. That's 720 ILCS 640, Section 1. And in there, it details what parents can be issued a citation for if their children behave in certain manners. And so it covers that. So we sent that to them. When we identified actual agitators, we sent letters to those parents barring those kids for their attendance, because we could actually find where they were on social media saying what they were going to do. A lot of this is social media driven, and it is about, we're going to settle some scores, we're going to perform. And a lot of the kids come down to do what? Just to video, and then to immediately put that up. So we were dealing with that. Those are other things we did. We developed an extensive mutual aid plan with neighboring police departments and the Illinois State Police. We even requested additional resources, and we had it. Sometimes Illinois State Police, the fire department helped us out with traffic control and other things. So we brought in other law enforcement agencies to help with this thing. And mutual aid is that if we scream out and call, you send whoever you can send to help us. And so folks understand, we're the big kids on the block. There's not a lot of people coming from Swanson if you're working with 2 officers. So you see what I'm talking about. So we had to deal with those kind of things. But we put that into place. We had to force and mandate our staff to come in to work overtime, and we had to cancel any vacations or time off that they may have, because we had to have the bodies to put these things on. And like I said, we worked with the fire department and EMT to pre-stage. The fire departments had a decon trailer set up so that in case we had to use OC or something, we had a way to help get that stuff decontaminated immediately. And Brian, you know, you've been down there and you've seen some of the extensive works that we have done, because you've been there as well as assisting us. So we put that into place. We had to bring in more vehicles, police vehicles, prisoner transport, flex cuffs. We brought all these things in. The prisoner van we brought in just so it could be seen, because it's a van and it has prisoner transport on the outside. So we wanted people to see that and move that around so they could see what was happening. We put officers on motorcycles. We even had to patrol and go back and forth to the Metrolinks so that somebody would not get hurt there, and those types of things, and people were walking. So we put all of those things into play just to make this work. Another thing we do, and we do not charge the vendors for, is we have to hire additional dispatchers. And they work a dedicated channel totally to the event. And we hire them, and they come in and they work that, and then we all move those officers to a dedicated channel to work those events downtown. Because we still have to do what? Patrol. We still have to answer calls for service. So we can't have them all talking over each other, so we do that. We bring them in. And the contract, the dispatcher's contract calls for additional dispatchers to come in when they have these kind of events because of the strain that it would put on your existing dispatchers trying to handle just the regular calls and that. So our problem has been that my command staff identified, and they actually came to me and said, Chief, here's our problem. Here's our experience. About 8 o'clock, a little after 8, that's when we see the massings taking place, or immediately after they get out of the games, depending on what's going on. They stage up, segregate from the rest of the participants, take over an area, and you end up with between 250, 400 juveniles and young adults. Their parents are part of this. They drop them off in mass, and you can see it taking place. They pull up, open the car door, boom, drop them out and say, well, I got 3 hours, or whatever it may be. And so they drop these kids off. They mass up. They're not, we see the majority does not participate in the event as far as going in, purchasing, buying, or doing anything like that. They go to their areas, take over where the vendors may have closed down earlier, and they occupy. And then the pushing and shoving will start, and a lot of times, unfortunately, it's a young female who will go with the fight. And they'll start fighting or something like that. We come in, it can be 30 of us, it can be 60 of us. How do you handle it? Why do you think you would have control of 400 people? Do you really believe that? So you don't have that. So you have to try to put on the best plan that you can. You have to try to think about all the things that could possibly go wrong. And so all those things that I'm telling you we've done that for a reason. We didn't do it because we just thought, hey, well, this is a good idea. We did it because we couldn't get a buy-in to what we really needed to do. And that was addressing the time. This is where it happens. Those are where the fights go. We had officers get hurt, go out on work comp claims. They're out on a work comp claim, and then we have to hire back at overtime to cover those people. Like I told the members of the committees, you don't pay for that. You guys do. The city does. We pay for all of that. And so what we also noticed was that even when we put all these things into play, we were still losing control of these events. I have been down there personally, and I have seen the fights, and I mean they break quick. The fight starts, you go in. Now folks, you have to think about what we're up against or what you have to do in today's time. You cannot think of this in a vacuum. And please don't go back to the beginning of when this happened. This is not the event that I worked in 1995. It's not the event that I worked in the 90s. It's totally different. Not the organizers. I'm not casting any dispersions against them. It is just the climate that we're in. And so you have to think about what happens at this point. We break it up, we separate them. We can't make mass arrests because that requires pulling resources and officers from the event, which we don't have that luxury to pull them away and make an arrest. So we try to break it up, separate them, move them on. I have been down there, parents come in and they curse us out. Their kid did no wrong. And so you run into that. But folks, think about the exposure to the city. And that's what I have to think about. We're subject to civil liabilities, even if there's a use of force, and it is justified. Let's say that we put our hands on a young female. That's all TikTok, whatever it is that they do, that's everywhere, right? It is now either edited or incomplete, that goes up. Now, this city is subject to lawsuits, and we have dealt with them. When we went to Fairview Heights to help them, when they called us for help, when they were fighting the 400, now swinging back around to this, we actually got letters threatening to sue us, and all we did was went up there and stood by, because the fight was over by that time. We went up there, we got the lawsuits, they wanted to see. We had to send our video and so forth in to show that our officers took no action. That's how quick the lawsuits come. And that's called, what they normally sue us under is a Title 1983 action. And that just means that an individual has a right to sue state government employees and others who are acting under the cover of law. And so that's what they can do. So that's all of us in this, as far as police officers in this room. So we're concerned about those types of things. We're concerned about sworn officer injuries, which we have experienced in these when they're fighting, and the work comp claims that the city pays for. The organizers they're not carrying that cost, and they don't see that. I understand that, but that is something that we deal with. The unplanned overtime costs, like I said, to hire back officers to fill those vacancies, because we have minimum manning requirements by the collective bargaining agreement. We can do everything right, and there requires a use of force. And we use that force because there's some violence taking place or properties being destroyed. Once the video gets out, there's a high probability that it's going to be edited. It's not going to be what we expect, and it's going to go up. And the people that tell the story first normally wins in America now. So that's going to go up. What's coming after that? Very negative press, continuous press, and it comes here. And you have to deal with that. When that comes here, we have to decide what do we do? Most of the time it's perception. You just can't get ahead of that once it's out. You can tell your story, but it's very difficult to do. And so we would have that, and then there are reactions to that press. There are reactions to that. Belleville, during the George Floyd period of time, experienced over 25 demonstrations or protests in this city. Over 25. You can combine all of the cities around, and they had nothing like that. But we had it, and they were down here. And some of those were 200 people or more, some were smaller. But they were there. They targeted City Hall. They targeted the police department on a couple occasions. George Floyd became our problem, and we had nothing to do with that. They're up in Minnesota, we're here in Illinois, but we were the problem. And so we saw that down here. You have a use of force, you have to take a female or a young male into custody. You get the bad press, you got a problem, folks. And it's not just the press, it's what comes next. Now you have events, you have people come in here to demonstrate, to do all sorts of things. I have to think like that. That's what you pay me for, to think about those, what happens, what do we do? Now some of this is possibilities or probabilities, but some of it is actual facts. It is driven by data. That has happened. We have video, we have photos of what some of these events have looked like. And these officers have had to deal with that. So if there was another way, if all of the things that we did in the beginning, if that all would carry the day, if that would make it work, I wouldn't be here having this discussion with you. I am loath to want to shut down the folks earlier, but you got to ask yourself a question, because the city of Belleville is going to be the ones at the end of the day paying that price. Now, we'll pay the price in terms of the officers on the street, their injuries and so forth. But liability claims, damage, and those types of things, That's on this city. 25 demonstrations. That was all overtime. You understand what I'm talking about? We paid for that. 25, over 25. This city did. So we met with everybody, we talked, I heard their concerns. I appreciate what they do in a charitable way. But I will tell you, we came here and it was not likely. Everything I told you is what we've tried to do to make this work. I will end with this. In the summer of this year, no, it would have been.
Well, yeah, this year.
Yeah,
Was
right.
you
Yeah,
said
that's right,
May?
it was.
Yeah.
And we had an issue with our parks. And what was happening in the parks is we had, right at the bewitching hour, 8:30, we would have large groups of kids come in to one of our parks. They would all drive in. And this wasn't just happening here. This was happening in Shiloh, Fairview Heights, East St. Louis, even in O'Fallon. They had I don't know if it was Fairview or East St. Louis, where they had shots fired. They would come in and settle scores. Just come to a park. You just see them just show up. And it'd be 300 kids would show up immediately, and then we're scurrying, we're hustling down there to try to get a handle on that. We've had them throw water bottles at our officers who was there, curse and fight. They're not fearful about that, because they were looking at their numbers. Their numbers was superior. So we had that. So I went to the mayor, and I asked her if she would consider allowing us to put a curfew on the parks so that we could try to mitigate some of these issues. She agreed to do that. We put a closing time on the parks, I believe at 7.
7 o'clock on every park on Friday, Saturday night.
Friday and Saturdays. There were no other incidents in any of our parks. We had none. This continued. This went on into, like I said, in Shiloh, Fairview Heights, East St. Louis, O'Fallon, and they came from over in Missouri and other places. This is the reality that we're facing. And so I'm here to ask you to consider this, because I think it is absolutely best for our city. And I don't want to blow any kind of smoke any place suggesting to you that the Belleville Police Department can handle those kinds of crowds. You simply can't. So.
Chief, I'd like to add something.
Yes.
I know the one gentleman that spoke that was a school teacher. I have been a school teacher. I taught children with emotional and behavioral issues. The fact of the matter is that when the statement is made by someone saying, well, if you shut it down, they'll just go to different times. This original conversation that Chief and I and some of the other gentlemen from the police department had, actually that event started in Shiloh. The Shiloh police ran the juveniles off. Luckily, our policemen got word they were coming to Latterman Park. And when Chief talked to me, we talked first about closing Latterman Park, and then the decision was made for the whole summer to close at 7 o'clock in all the parks in the city on Friday and Saturday. It was not meant to harm anyone. It was meant for public safety. And I know that some of the comments made this evening said, well, closing this down early won't stop it from happening. But this is one incident where it did stop it. And I go to a lot of meetings with different mayors, and they were still having the problems, but we weren't. And I thank the chief for bringing it to our attention. And we just want everybody, if you get a situation where there would be a bad situation at even one event, no matter how many events occur in the city, you know, we don't want events to be closed. We don't want we want people to come to Belleville and feel that they're safe. But when you have juveniles that are starting issues like that, it's very difficult. Yes?
I just have a question. Something I was thinking about reading this and just trying to ponder, and I have 2 juveniles, thankfully, who would, as soon as I say never, they'll be the next ones you see. But the word I keep hearing over and over, well, there's 2 things I keep hearing over and over. The first is we don't have enough police officers. So that to me sounds like a big issue, not for tonight. But like, how can we up our police staff?
And we
so
are
that,
really working
you know,
on that.
But that's not for tonight. I'm sorry. That was just something that, you know, keeps running over in my head, is the stress that's put on you and all the fabulous, I can't even, there are no words, for the work you do and all of that you brought tonight. And I believe you, and I'm with you in all of that. But I keep hearing the word juvenile. Is there no way for us to police these events and at 9 o'clock have people stationed who are carding these children and saying, nope, sorry, you're not whatever the age, you know, 16, 17, 18. You know, if you're not 21, you're not allowed in after 9 o'clock.
Let me address a couple of those. We could have 100 police officers. That's not the issue.
Okay.
About how many officers we have or don't. I mean, you just have more out there, but you still have to look at what is it that they're doing, what level of force are you going to do, and what is going to be their compliance level. Are they going to comply or not?
Yeah.
And then what do you do at that point? With respect to trying to close in a street fest, that they can come in from all sorts of routes and easily get into those events. It's not a closed environment. There's no environmental designs that you can put in place that's going to be effective at stopping people from coming in. The environmental designs that we put in place were around the targeted areas that we knew we had the problems with. We knew that on the square we'd have tons of problems. And so we had to figure out how to block off those areas, how to get additional lighting there. There was a point in time in one event where the captain was there and he was in charge of that, and he called me and we were talking and he said, they're all up on the tables now. And they're just defying and going on. And I said, so Captain, I want to tell you something. You've lost this one. I said, they're there, they got this now, they're in a position. And so I said, if you went in, you're gonna have to use force. And again, that's where you are. Are you using force on those kinds of situations, or are we doing proactive steps to mitigate them or to minimize those kinds of situations from occurring? If it goes, if it happens, and we're there.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I guess, you know, in looking at it, it seems drastic to close at 9. And I'm thinking, of course, of downtown businesses, because I'm like all about the small businesses and making sure that they're getting what they need. And then these charitable organizations who are donating their time and talents to better our city. But I'm just wondering, like, is there a way to cooperate with the school districts, with the parents, with the city, with the police to try that first? I don't know. It just feels like we're missing something about how to try and keep the young people out.
I do want to make a clarification about Art on the Square. I don't think we had any problems there.
No.
Just, we close early too.
Because it's a different type of event and it doesn't attract.
That's not the same kind of people.
It doesn't attract the youth, and they don't come there. to the Arnold Square. It's a different type of event.
I thought I heard somebody say that, but.
No, that's
But
not true.
anyway, another thing too is that, you know, perception of towns are so important. Mr. Whittington and I both chaired the West Belleville Promotional Committee for many years, and what did we always say?
Perception's reality.
You got it. And so you don't want to have something catastrophic happen that could hurt and harm the reputation. Being proactive to me is always better than being reactive. Yes, Mr. Hazel.
Mayor, thank you.
Yes.
Chief, thanks. And to play off of a comment that Alderman Arrows had mentioned, got a letter here that's in your packet from one of the police officers. And just to hit on a few points in order to back up what the alderperson was saying. First paragraph is, over the last 6-7 years, we have historically had issues at the Oktoberfest and chili cook-off with juveniles, culminating in fights and disturbances during the event. All these fights and significant disturbances have occurred after 9 p.m. Following the event in 2018, we had a combined presence of officers and combination, some of the fire department personnel was there, totaling 69 officers and 3 firefighters. There were some issues with juveniles, but the main point is the manpower at the event was able to disperse them before a major incident happened. In 2019, 51 officers, again, dispersing them before a major incident occurred. 20, COVID. 21, a total of 42 officers. The officers at the event were able to disperse them before a major incident occurred. They went to Fairview, and there was an issue. During the chili cook-off, we had to manipulate the time slots to gain more officers at the event during the night hours, totaling 38. One of the nights during this event had to be shut down early for juvenile issues. Now, the one reoccurring issue there is each event we had less and less police presence. I don't think, looking here, the major issue and some of the points, the main point you kept making was dark. And so you're asking for 9 o'clock, but I think actually if dark is the issue, we're going to need to ask more. The event itself is the event goers, the festival seekers. We're not having major issues with them. We're having juveniles come into our town, whether they're ours or whether from other towns. That's the issue. We need to be looking at ways to deal with that issue. I'm not ready to put a closed sign on this town and get rid of what makes Belleville, Belleville. Just not ready for that at all. Actually, Chief, let me make another point, because you've done a great job. I've been around, I've listened to the issues through the years, and what you've done, adding the lights, a lot of things in the areas. You learn every year, you gotta move, change, and everything. But what you're proposing, and if the issue is dark, and if the issue is 8 to 9 o'clock, or 9 to 10 o'clock, and you want to shut down the event, you've got all of these people in a closed area where they're contained. And all of your issues with the juveniles are on the outside areas in the parking lots, and now you want to come through town and you want to push all these people out to the parking lots. You want to close down the street, you want to reopen the street, you want to push the party goers out into areas where you guys are trying to do your job, where you're trying to work, trying to take care of these juveniles, and then now you've got people trying to go to their cars and leave. You've got more spectators, you've got more people in the problem areas. It seems to me like it's against what you're trying to do to push the crowd out into your problem areas. I don't think that we should be shutting down our festivals. We need to keep those people there, and we need to talk, and we need to come up with solutions and goals to deal with what the actual problem is.
A lot of supposition you made there. And one of the, you said that the kids are on the outskirts and that we're out there dealing with them. That is not true. They are in the midst of the event. They're not on the outside. They're in the midst of it. They actually commandeer the square. So that is not true, what you just said. Secondly, to say that we need to be coming up with some more things, I think I went through a litany of events and things that we're trying to do to put in place, but they are not working. What do we want to do? If you want to wait until we have the event, it's too late. We have been able to push some of these things out and send people. When we say a major event, what that means is there were no gunshots. There's no super mob fighting and so forth. But there are fights. There are all kinds of things going. Officers are not getting hurt because they're tripping